The stock market just flipped, and that's because Jerome Powell provided 2 days of testimony starting today, with more of it tomorrow. We're going to go through and talk about the key takeaways in a moment. But what I want to remind you of first is that we've been looking at a pattern of higher lows and higher highs, and that's exactly what we did here. We came down to within 20 cents of the weekly higher low, but we passed, just like the last time and just like the last time. So, what this really means is that even though people might be quite surprised, we continue to see strength with higher lows and higher highs, which are bullish. So, what did Jerome Powell have to say? We're going to go through that in 2 seconds here. But as a preview for the rest of the show, I also want to show you other headlines as it relates to Powell. I want to go through and talk about another article here from Reuters. I want to look at the fear and greed. I want to come back and talk about New York Community Bank, which is up by over 100% today after a $1 billion capital raise and Steve Mnuchin joining the board. We can also note that things look really weird out there. Nothing is adding up. We're going to come back and talk about that as well. We're going to look at the heat map. We're also going to talk about an update to the notes from the weekend. And then finally, we're going to come and look at two stocks which are cheap as a follow-up to our video from yesterday. All right, so just looking at the chart here first, what I want to note is that yes, we are extended. Yes, we did hit the top of the channel. Yes, the last times we did sell off. And technically, this is a sell-off. We have a red candle, and we're currently down by about 0.6% on the week. The same pattern is here on QQQ. Hit the top of the channel, sell off. At the top, sell off. At the top, sell off. And here's where it gets interesting. Just before we do that, I'm going to ask you guys for a huge favor, and thank you so much for your support on yesterday's video. It turned out really well. If you don't mind smashing that thumbs up or subscribing to the channel if you're new here, I would really appreciate that. So yesterday, if you remember, we talked about something where when we get 3 full candles in a row, and as a reminder, what a full candle is, you can see them here. I know the hollow candles are a little bit hard to see at home, like these ones here, but what it means is that we're closing higher than we opened. So when it's hollow, what it means is that the session is closing higher than we opened. If we have a full candle, like here, or like here, or like over here, what it means is that the closing price is lower than we opened. And this really matters because whether or not the candle is red or green, it tells us whether or not there is more strength at the open or more strength at the close, or if we're weak. So by having one green day, but it's full, and having 2 red days, which are also full, it means that for 3 consecutive days, we have closed lower than we opened, which means that the bears were actually stronger from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And this is significant because the last times we saw 3 red bars in a row, well, we got some right here, right? We got a succession of red bars that leads to a fade. We got 3 in a row. There's your fade. Didn't get any of them here. We look back in time. We have 1, 2, 3. We got 1, 2, 3. We got, when's the last time we got 3 here? We got 1, 2, 3. So this could be it. It could be over after 3 if we're able to curl down and go up. Again, a lot of ifs and thens. That usually means that's the bottom. We are struggling with our uptrend here. But what's also important to note is that we are seeing rotation. Actually saw a new stock make an all-time high today. We talked about RSP on the weekend. Oh my goodness, it made it. We were looking for 164.9, and today's print is 164.97. Oh my goodness, this is looking good. Why? Because we're seeing breadth and we're seeing depth. What else is up today? Well, let's go here to, let's look at the weekly chart because we know that S&P is red on the week by about 0.5% at 0.6. The NASDAQ is down by 1.5%. All right, well, the dollar is down. That's good for stocks. Volatility is up by over 10%. That's not good for stocks. And the 10-year note is down after Jerome Powell spoke. This is good. It's adding some relief. Oh my goodness, Bitcoin making a big move on the week, up by 5.5% after notching in new record highs. Ether up 10% this week. Gold, it's up 3 to a new record high. Even futures joining the all-time high club here over 2152, so 2152. Oil is red. Copper is slightly up. But as we look at these mega caps, Microsoft, the biggest stock in the world, down by 3.3. Apple is just fading. It's down by 5.5. It's got a large gap here, and it's well below its 2021 and 22 highs now. That's at 182, 183. NVIDIA, man, the train just can't stop, up another 8%. Google, stinky, right? They have issues with AI, and the issues with Apple and Tesla are related to China. Amazon here does have a reversal pattern. This is a failed breakout. Meta, still holding up here, but down by about 1.2%. Meta, the fade is big. It's down by 12.8% on the week. And AMD can't stop this AI train. It just wants to go up. Looking at some ETFs really fast, RSP is up on the week. So if all we're doing is looking at S&P and QQQ, we're likely missing part of the story here. The Dow does have a weekly lower low, and we are below last week's low. This is a warning. We also talked about on the weekend about how we do have a risk in the S&P, the Dow Jones, and the Russell because they're all overbought and they are at risk of a sell-off. Watch the video at the very end if you want to learn more about that. But if we go back here to the Dow, this is a warning sign. It's a lower low, and we're currently below that low. That is not continued strength. That is softness. That is weakness, but the week's not closed out yet, so we can't call it down and out. SMH, new all-time highs. XLK, again, mega caps, largely Microsoft and Apple, soft, down by 1.6 on the week. Healthcare, let's go to hollow candles. So it's a little bit red, but we're higher than we opened. XLF, it's green on the week by about 0.8. The Russell is barely red. Okay. Energy, flat. Utilities up by 2.4%. New York Stock Exchange up by 0.4. ARC, red, but who cares? Insurance up by 2%. Regional banks up by 4. Oh my goodness. Emerging markets green by 0.3. The market is broadening out. So what does that mean? It means if all we're doing is looking at the S&P 500, that's only part of the story. And what Jerome Powell had to say today is what we're going to go through right now. All right, key takeaways. What did he say? No recession on the horizon. Great. The risk from empty offices is building up. Yes, that's commercial real estate. Lawmakers blast proposed banking regulations again. Okay, those are the 3 key takeaways. Fairly easy. If we read the headlines here, what does it say? Wall Street gets big win as Powell floats scrapping capital plan. Boom, financials are up. We just reviewed that. And then we see this one here from Reuters, and we're going to read that right now. Powell expects rate cuts, but inflation progress not assured. So the fact that there's not really any major headlines is actually quite constructive. Solid outlook for the future. Excellent. Nothing else to talk about. Boring is good. Fear and greed is stuck at 74. I'll be watching it closely. And like we briefly alluded to, New York Community Bank is up dramatically on the day, up by more than 100% off the lows. And the stock is only worth about $2.5 billion. It was halted today, and they've raised $1 billion and brought on the former Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin. All right. And then there's more notes from the weekend, but we did get through the most important data point for the week. So we've gone through Bank of Canada rate decision, nothing burger. Powell testified today. We get the ECB rate decision tomorrow, and then more testimony from Powell. And then again, watch the weekend video if you want to see more. And the stocks that are cheap are Google and Meta. Again, we talked about this, but not enough time today. We'll come back to this tomorrow likely. All right, now let's read this for fun. The S&P is trading like there's a new bull market. Regional banks are crashing like the crisis never ended. Bonds are rising like the Fed is cutting interest rates. Inflation data is rising like Fed rate cuts are canceled. Bitcoin is rising like there's no recession coming. Gold is rising like there's a recession on the way. Nothing is adding up here. I agree. So tomorrow at 9 a.m., we're going to go through and talk more about that. Otherwise, the weekend deep dives now on the left-hand side. You can subscribe on the right if you want to join me tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.